We are here in Church Hill at the home of Lawson Wijesooriya, a Church Hillite that you'll learn more about here in a second. Thank you for having us in your home, and thank you for wearing the Tenant Turner sunglasses.
Oh, pleasure.
I appreciate it. So I guess let's start first on where you're from, how you got to Richmond.
Yeah, I was born in California, but grew up in New Jersey, was there through high school, and went to the University of Virginia, which is what got me south, and then met up with a group of friends from college that actually decided post-college to move somewhere together, and Richmond was the place that we came. So I moved here in June of 2004 and have always been in Church Hill that whole time.
So you set up shop here in 2004 in Church Hill, and so I guess off camera you referenced you and your kind of friend group had something you wanted to accomplish and do, and you picked Richmond and you picked Church Hill. I guess tell us what that is and ultimately why Church Hill, why Richmond?
Yeah, it was pretty strange in some ways when I started dating my now husband. He had these really strong male relationships that centered around their faith in college, and they would talk about how they believed they were better human beings in the world when they were together, and they cared about issues of racial reconciliation and justice and wanted to live in a place where their resources, their education, their backgrounds could benefit a community. So they started thinking and praying about that in college, which I think is pretty strange for most college guys.
Right, not your typical,
not your typical,
frat bro right.
time spent. And so I was similarly passionate about those issues. Also in college, I actually studied kind of the civil rights movement and what was the church doing to respond to King's call for beloved community. And I was doing a lot of head knowledge about that, but hadn't lived that out in many concrete ways at UVA. And when I graduated and we were looking for the place for my husband to do his residency after medical school, Richmond became the place that we had all discerned together. We wanted to move into a lower income place, and we wanted to just learn how to be good neighbors. We didn't come in with a lot of lofty goals of what we wanted to fix, but a very deep belief that justice is best done when you are a part of and share in the communal life of the things that you seek to change. And so if we care about issues of racial discrimination, if we care about issues of trauma and effects of poverty on the school system, then the best way to learn about that, be a student of that, and have impact is to move in and send your kids to the school and have your jobs and your life kind of reflect those issues, living cross-culturally. And so we did that together, and we kind of joined arms, and a few families moved all within the same area of Church Hill together.
And so why Church Hill versus any other neighborhood in Richmond?
Yeah, that's a good question. We were actually looking even at multiple cities up and down, mostly on the East Coast, kind of mid-Atlantic region. Once Richmond kind of came to the forefront for several reasons, it was a place where some in that group of friends had connections already. A place that we knew had a residency program, like some of the tangibles that you need. Then after deciding Richmond, we did actually visit North Side, South Side, and visited mainly with people that were already involved in the similar type work that we wanted to do. And the reason we came to Church Hill actually was very specific. And it was important to us. We are not an all white group, but we are a mostly white, a relatively affluent group, and we wanted to be invited in by local Black leadership. We wanted to be in a place where there was a local Black low-income authority in that community that said, yeah, we would like for you to come here. And we found that in Church Hill. Don Coleman has lived here his whole life and is now was then and is now my current pastor of our church. And he met with us, and just a bunch of UVA people who thought too much of themselves. And he said, I'll teach you a thing or two. Why don't you guys come and kind of sit underneath me and let me show you the ropes. And and we've done that. And that's why we moved to Church Hill.
Nice. So Church Hill, from a real estate standpoint, is very interesting. From a cultural standpoint, it's pretty interesting because you have a very diverse mix. Historically, the real estate folks would say Church Hill, the farther south and west you go, the better. The farther north and east you go, the worse as far as real estate prices go. And so you moved here in 2004, which is interesting, about 3 to 4 years before the real estate crash. And Church Hill's kind of real estate past and future is very tied to the real estate market. So from 04 to 7, things were starting to become renovated. Then it halted for a few years. And then 2012 or so, it picked back up, and now it's on fire. And so you were you're fairly northeast in the neighborhood, and you moved here in 2004. So what was it like then compared to now?
Very different, especially in terms of the housing market. Our first home, we bought pretty much ready to move into for $80,000 and lived there for the first 8 years, I guess we were here. And then moved to this home that we're in now. Also at we did have to invest in it in terms of renovation costs, but bought it for $67,000. I think that, so it's changed, pricing has changed dramatically. The demographic has changed dramatically. When I first moved here, we moved very intentionally into that northeast corner because we wanted to be close to where public housing was, knowing that would stabilize the gentrification process. And we had studied kind of urban ministry enough to know that we would be a part of the problem. We would be a part of causing more rapid gentrification, which would push out historic neighbors, and we didn't want that. So that was intentional for us to move to the place that was less hip and desirable.
Right.
And so it was, I was one of very, very few white women. And it was, a lot of our neighbors did come mistrust why we were here. And we had to do that work of gaining trust and relationships with people around us, that we weren't here to flip houses, that we were here to stay and invest and be a part of the neighborhood. And you can
that kind of leads into a little bit to Urban Hope. You want to tell them what Urban Hope is?
Sure. It's a nonprofit that actually was formed before we got here, but kind of we helped breathe life back into it. It was lying dormant for a little while. But basically, it's just a low-income housing nonprofit that seeks to serve folks lower than some of your other kind of low-income housing or affordable housing, I guess is a better word. Nonprofits are serving. They're serving kind of a different strata of that AMI. And Urban Hope's really working with folks who, could be facing homelessness, really living on the edge, are employed, do have jobs, but aren't living at a living wage. And so... it's been really fun. We've bought property in order to very purposefully hold it below market rate and allow access for neighbors.
That's awesome. That's great. And so that leads into the Blue Sky Fund as well. So you started that in 2007. Yeah. So you've been here 3 years. Walk me through what that is and why you decided to start that.
Yeah, I started out as a teacher when I was first here because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and loved the time with children, loved education. I've always been passionate about that as a bedrock issue in any community. But I wasn't built for the classroom, and have always been built for the outdoors. And Richmond is this amazing treasure of outdoor activity and recreation. And I believed that we had those assets, and those assets weren't being utilized or, given or provided access to our most low-income neighbors. And I believed that kids in public school should be having experiential learning field trips to learn about science, and that there is a lot to learn about resilience by rock climbing and going camping and all that. So met up with some other folks who were passionate about the similar issues and started to say, hey, will you guys let me start this and try it and see if this programming is beneficial for kids? And it was super grassroots at the start, no budget.
How did you find kids to participate back then?
It was pretty easy when you live here. If you're willing to hang out with kids in this neighborhood, kids are usually willing to hang out with you. So truly, the first camping trip Blue Sky ever took were just I think there were 7 boys, all between the age of probably 11 and 14. And I just knew them literally from the street. Like I knew them from being on my front porch and hanging out with them and asking them if they wanted to come over and have popcorn.
Gotcha.
And then took them camping and they liked it. And then started very organically. And then it was about connecting with other youth serving agencies, Churchill Activities and Tutoring, Peter Paul Development Center, the Boys and Girls Club. Those places were then became the source of kids to feed into our program once it became more established.
Gotcha. Awesome. Okay, so now fast forward a few years, we're 2018, and you are now working with the Scoop. Tell us what the Scoop is.
Yeah, it's a big change from education nonprofit work to food retail.
Right.
I knew nothing about it other than being a very passionate consumer of ice cream. And so part of the kind of birth of this Scoop came out of kind of along the path of living in this community, the same themes that are going on in housing and in education that we've already talked about, that same theme is going on with our commerce and with our businesses. You've got, we are a very hip, very nationally recognized place for fine dining and bakeries, and you can get tasty treats in a lot of places, but the demographic that is shopping in the southern part of the neighborhood is not the same demographic that's shopping at the barbershops and the Family Dollar on the northern end of the neighborhood.
Right.
And I just thought I would like to try what does it look like to create a business that is not trying to only market to one demographic, but that is purposefully making itself about all of the demographics that live in Church Hill. So also needing that, the folks that have moved in the last decade that want a craft premium, high cost ice cream, they can find that at the Scoop. And I also have soft serve that's cheap and you can get for $1.50. And if you're walking to the corner store to get hot fries, you might stop and, come to the Scoop instead. So our goal with the Scoop is that it's really a gathering place and a place that provides entry-level jobs for local teenagers who really need opportunity, need those chances to have workforce development. Right. And so that's what we're doing.
Did you mention where it's located?
So we're on the corner of 26th and 9 Mile Road,
right?
Which is kind of an important corridor for us. Definitely will be up and coming. There is a lot of commercial development going on there now that we're really excited about and have belief that it can be accessible, hopefully, to public housing residents who don't have access to transportation as much. But yeah, we're currently just a trailer with a beautiful outdoor space. We're with the Sarah Garland Jones Center. And we hope to move into a storefront in the coming year that would be kind of north of O Street, somewhere along 9 Mile, 25th, in that same corridor.
Gotcha. And for those, the real estate folks and Church Hill folks, that's located, you said, on 9 Mile where the hospital is, at the new Bon Secours facility.
Yep. And across from where the market at 25th is going in. Right. Reynolds is doing a culinary and horticulture institute.
Sure.
Yep.
Cool. And then, so in that business, you have a business partner, correct?
I do.
Tell us about how that relationship was formed and how that relationship works now.
Yeah, this interview should be with Alfonso. He's amazing. He has taught me so much. He is my first ever next door neighbor. When I moved into Church Hill, he's the first person I knew, met, hung out with. He's grew up in Fairfield Court, actually in public housing, and then has moved around a little bit, but now lives in a legacy home of his in-laws that his in-laws have passed away. And he and his wife took over the house, and he just cares about this neighborhood. He's a vet and has done various jobs, landscaping, construction, trucking, but never kind of found, I think, ways that his giftings and his vision and desire to serve the neighborhood were ever given a platform. And so I asked him early on when I had this crazy idea to start an ice cream shop. He was really a part of the dream. He was always felt like he embodied what I was trying to create culturally. I knew that young white woman that had moved into Church Hill, starting a business on these values, isn't going to hold the same weight as a 60-year-old African-American man from the neighborhood and a young white woman who's moved in the last 15 years, to do that together, and what we symbolize together, the strengths and weaknesses we bring to the business together. So it's just fun. He's strong and hilarious and welcoming and loves to tell stories, and he is kind of that front of house culture builder at the Scoop. And it's been great to have him along. That's
awesome. So with what's going on in Church Hill from a real estate standpoint, a gentrification standpoint, what do you see happening in Church Hill in the next 10 years?
Well, there's what I hope for.
Sure.
Part of that original vision when we came to Richmond specifically, with these passions that all of us had from college about a belief in beloved community, about a belief that Americans don't seem to be very good at living with one another. And we have a history of white flight. We have a history of black flight. We have a history of, when you are able to move, you move to live with people that are like you.
Right.
My hope is that, cities were designed not to do that.
Right.
That was designed for people to live alongside each other. And Church Hill can, I think, sustain a multicultural, multi-income community, but it takes great intentionality for that to happen. The market will not do that on its own in an unbridled way. We can, I think, commit as residents to say, hey, can I get a nice, renovated, can I get value in my home? That's a good thing. I want that. But can we also protect a diverse housing stock that Church Hill does have? We have small ranchers. We have, different ways that, we have got the development going in across from Creighton Court that's going to be supposed to be designed for multi-income, but we need people that desire to live in those places. We need some people paying market rate so that others can pay below market rate. And because we believe that our market rate value is actually enhanced by living alongside people that are not like us. So yes, is that pie in the sky? Absolutely. Will most people think I'm terribly naive? Absolutely. But I do believe that God has a vision for Richmond to address our history, that we were the capital of the Confederacy and the capital, second largest, I believe, importer of slaves, that we can also show the country a way of being the capital of racial reconciliation. We can show the country a way of healing from those wounds. And I think Church Hill is incredibly well positioned to actually be a part of that story. But we've got to choose it, and it takes a tremendous amount of work and sacrifice to actually make it happen.
Sure. And so it leads me to my next question after what's next for Church Hill is, what's next for you? 10 years from now, are you still going to be living in Church Hill scooping ice cream? What do you think you're going to be doing in 10 years?
I definitely plan to still be living in Church Hill.
Yeah.
I would say I don't plan to be scooping ice cream. Well, it is really fun. This is a shorter term. I am pretty well designed and built to start things and have vision and create culture. And
so I know you've got some ideas brewing already. Do you want to share any of those what those next ideas are?
Well, to be honest, I don't actually have any more business ideas. The business sector is new for me already. I have a lot to learn. We are not exactly thriving yet.
Right.
I think so. I don't know. So I want the Scoop to be still scooping ice cream in 10 years. And I want to find local operators to help me do that. And I want to continue to support it and build culture and help with the marketing, all of that. It's like the administrative side of things. But I do hope to go back into education in some form, whether or not that is through the nonprofit industry. It actually might be through a run at public office, school board. I have often thought about, running for school board, that type of way of influence in educational policy that I'm really passionate about. So I don't actually have any idea what I'm going to be doing in 10 years. But that's relatively comfortable for me, and excited about what the next adventure will bring. But I have still a long way to go to succeed in this current adventure. I got
so blinders on for now.
Yeah, I've got to give it a couple more years.
Good for you. Entrepreneurs, and folks like you are entrepreneurs / activists of sorts. Always have I call it the chase the shiny ball complex.
Yep.
I have it too, where you want to do this, you want to do this, but sometimes we have to like make ourselves kind of okay. Let's just focus on this for a bit to make this thing work or make it matter or make it have it help.
It's definitely. I've always said I'm never short on ideas, but short on plans, and I agree.
I like to think if the idea is there, great. I recognize it, but if it doesn't hang around, then it'll float away. But if it's still there every day for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe it's something that is worth the time.
That's good advice. Thanks.
So we like to do this with all of our interviewees on the podcast. Is kind of close with some kind of lightning questions about Richmond, and I'm guessing these will all be Church Hill focused, not just Richmond focused, because it seems like you haven't left Church Hill in 14 years. Right?
I get out every once in a while, but it's a pretty provincial life here when you can bike and walk to your kid's school, to your job, and to your house. So
that's awesome. Okay, so start with this one's kind of geared towards you. What's your favorite outdoor activity in Richmond?
Oh, gosh, so many. But walking around and near the James River. So Belle Isle, Buttermilk Trail, Pipeline. Yeah.
Okay.
Seeing bald eagles and herons and the water. And it's amazing.
Cool. Favorite restaurant in Richmond?
Oh, Cezanne.
Okay. That is outside of Church Hill, isn't it?
It is.
Just barely.
So actually, I went there last night.
Yeah.
And we go there a lot on our date nights. My husband and I go on a date every Wednesday.
Right.
And part of why we go is because it is outside of Church Hill, and we are less likely to run into people we know.
Right. Give you a little break. Okay, so you've got friends coming into Richmond. They're going to stay with you for the week, and they're going to get there Friday, leave Sunday, and you want to show them your city, or in this case, maybe your neighborhood. What's your itinerary Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday?
Oh my gosh, these are such good questions and hard ones. So I think it is going to be a mix. So certainly my family culture, we're really active. So it is going to include activity that might just be playing soccer at a local park, might be, walking down by the James River, like I mentioned. It's going to be, maybe going on a bike tour with Richmond Rides. It might be, something that's active and using our bodies and being outside. That's gonna be an essential piece. We will most likely go to a brewery. So whether that's Triple Crossing over here on our side, and staying in the neighborhood, which we do, or it might be, another brewery downtown or somewhere in Scott's Addition. We are most likely, other activity that would be important is we might go for a bike ride along the Capitol Trail.
Okay.
We're going to hit a brewery. We're going to go out for dinner. We might hit the VMFA. Certainly would be going to parks, Bird Park, maybe playing tennis. And then we definitely are also I feel like our itineraries when people come visit us is also about them just knowing our life here. So a lot of it is kind of coming along to whatever it is that we're already doing.
Right.
Our boys' sports, or hey, we're already.
You might go to see the DPM Rockies win the championship, perhaps.
Champions, number one.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then Sunday, you're taking them to the airport. You're going to hit brunch really quick. Where's your brunch spot?
Oh, brunch would be. Gosh, I haven't gone to brunch in a while. Probably Millie's.
Millie's, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a winner. That's always a winner. Well, cool. Anything we didn't ask that you want us to ask in this podcast today?
No, these are great questions, and I'm glad y'all are doing this.
Yeah, well, obviously, I know a lot of folks in Richmond that do a lot of good and help, and there's a lot of folks that do help and give what they can as far as time and energy goes, but not many of them have committed their entire life to it like you and your husband have. So that's pretty awesome. So I was gonna say thank you as a fellow Richmonder. Thank you for what you do to make Richmond a better place, and I know a lot of people appreciate it as well.
Well, thank you as well.
Yeah, thanks again for hosting us in your home. So thank you.